Hi, this is Small Business 2000 and I'm Hattie Bryant. This program is for anyone who owns a business or who thinks someday they might want to. From Los Angeles to Boston and from Tampa to Seattle, small business owners tell you exactly how they do what they do. This week, you'll see how an entrepreneur created a tourist attraction in one of the country's oldest and most visited cities. You'll also hear from a viewer and get advice on enlarging your customer base from our veteran salesman and marketer, John Wargo. People are always looking for a magic formula. We all search and struggle to find our way. The journey is easier if we have advice from those who have gone before us. So, every week, we give you a small business masterclass. This is an opportunity, not just a tip or two, to learn from a master. From Boston, here's the young but now business-wise Andy Wilson. This is Boston, the birthplace of America. Visitors, both tourists and convention goers, pour into the city to experience the history, the architecture, the culture, the schools, the rich texture of a place that represents freedom, independence, democracy. Our Boston-born and bred executive producer tells us that Boston has a long-standing identity with certain amphibious creatures. The swan boats have been part of the public garden since the 1800s, and every child who grows up in Boston reads "Make Way for Ducklings." The stars of the book also reside here in the gardens. Now, there's a new duck in town. Another amphibious wonder brought to the people of Boston by this imaginative entrepreneur.
Are you guys ready?
Boston Duck Tours is an 80-minute sightseeing tour of the city. The ducks are World War II landing craft originally used to transport supplies from ship to shore. There are 12 ducks with colorful names like Beantown Betty and colorful characters like our tour guide to take us on a historical journey.
Good morning.
Are you going to be our guide?
I sure am.
And what's your name?
Captain Courageous, my name.
Captain Courageous?
That's right.
You're going to make us learn how to say quack quack?
That's right. We're going to do the whole thing here.
You'll see those people that are going to be kind of gawking at us or taking our picture. Whatever the occasion is, we have a mission, and our mission is to put a smile on their face. Quack, quack. The quack and the wave goes like this. Quack, quack. So all it is, two quacks and a little bit of wave, but we do it all at the same time, so that way it sounds nice and loud. So let's all try it right now as a whole group. As I toot my horn here. Quack, quack. Quack, quack. Very good. I think everybody did it, so let's get going on our tour here. Now over here on the right-hand side is the second tallest building in the
Each
city of
duck
Boston,
runs
the
5
Prudential
tours a day
Tower,
from
50
April through
degrees,
December
35
1st.
top of that
This
building
year,
is an
about
observation
300,000
deck and
enjoyed the
also a
ride,
restaurant. Great way to
grossing
see
the
city
business
from up on top there.
$4.4 million. Believe it or not, he had to turn away over 200,000 people. Named Small Business Person of the Year from Massachusetts, Andy Wilson will tell you how a guy with no money and a vision in a very short time built the hottest attraction in the state. We were lucky we had called ahead because the tour is so popular, it's hard to get tickets. If you come to town during the summer or on weekends, buy tickets early in the day.
Over here on the right-hand side, you can see where the Declaration of Independence was first read to the people of Boston in July of 1776.
Andy explains his non-conventional hiring process.
We just run ads in the Boston Globe for Coast Guard captains.
Oh, you say wanted Coast Guard captain?
Yeah.
Now, duck drivers need 4 licenses to drive a vehicle like this. One of them's from the United States Coast Guard, which is a captain's license. One is from the state, what they call a CDL, or commercial license. One is from the Department of Public Transportation, it's for a passenger endorsement. And the other one's from the city of Boston, that's a sightseer's license. Of course, it's a little fee here, and a little fee there, here a fee, there a fee, everywhere. Right on, very good.
And then they come in and we have cattle calls. And we have a theatrical coach that puts them through theatrical skill sets, because the first thing is we want to see is whether or not they can project themselves as being someone else besides themselves comfortably.
Does that coach ask them to do things like stand on your head or like pat your head and rub your belly, or what is it?
Well, she has all these props and so they maybe she has 50 props, hats,
and she'll pass
binoculars, and they say go pick one.
During the Second World War, I was a radio operator down in the South Pacific. This is where I first came acquainted with these amphibious ducks.
By putting them and letting them develop their own character and their own costume, They take ownership of it, but more importantly is they don't feel as much at risk anymore because they're not themselves.
Okay.
You know, so they can project themselves much easier. They're on stage. This is a best show on wheels. You know, this is a stage. It's a platform.
All right, are we all ready? Especially back. Oh, wait a minute. Here we go with a big splash. What was that for a big splash? Pretty good? Only one word of warning. Please do not try this with your own automobiles. It could be very dangerous.
Well, I was, you know, in a suit and tie working in corporate America, and was in the backroom office of investment banking, doing all accounting for commingled investments and making a lot of money for the company. And I just woke up one day after working 7 years, and I said, something's wrong here. This isn't what life is all about. So I went out and for $300 bought a 90-day Greyhound pass and took my own bus trip. And along the way, I wanted to go see an aunt who I had not seen in 18 years, and she lived in Tennessee. And I stopped off in Memphis to see Graceland. And I pulled into the bus stop at 5:30 in the morning, stumbled across the street, checked into a hotel to get some shut-eye, and I woke up about 3 hours later, opened the drapes, and I looked down, and there was this duck. That was
one of these.
One of these. That there was this little rinky-dink duck business in Memphis, and didn't know they existed. And I took the duck tour. So I finished the rest of my, you know, went on and saw Graceland and saw my aunt and went on with the rest of my trip. And I was home for less than a half an hour, and I saw 10 trolleys in that first half an hour.
Home in Boston.
Home in Boston. Saw 10 trolleys packed with people. Living on a boat, I used to take people up to see these views, and the Charles, friends of mine, when they'd visit, and they would be ranting and raving about this experience years later, about how wonderful it was.
They loved it from the boat best.
From the boat the best, and all of a sudden it just hit me. I said, this will work in Boston. I researched and I found out that there were really 3 main duck businesses that had been flourishing. I toured the 3 of them, and it became very clear and evident to me that the guy in Branson, Missouri, Bob McDowell, had clearly taken this business to the highest state of being that anybody else had in terms of execution of the tour, but more importantly, the equipment. So I approached him and realized that he had taken and continually tries to strive to improve on safety and improve on reliability.
Okay, so what is the relationship? Do you buy the finished vehicles from him? Do you spec to him what you want for Boston? How does that work?
Well, I spec'd what I wanted for Boston over and above what he was already doing. I buy the vehicles from him, and then in terms of sharing his 26 years worth of knowledge, mechanical knowledge he's developed, I pay him. I have a licensing arrangement where I pay him a certain percentage of my gross. But more importantly, as I started helping him cash out his technology, you know, he was running his own sightseeing tour, but all of a sudden now he's cash flowing off of his technology as a result of me. And one of my things I like to say is business people are ultimately much better off working together than working apart. So I convinced him to work with me, first time he'd ever done that. So not only was it good for me, but it was good for him, and our success has helped improve his success both financially and making the duck tour concept potentially successful anywhere in the world. I thought I was going to be able to pull it off like this. And so I started lining up money and commitments for money, and I said, well, it's going to take another 6 months. 6 months would come and go, and then by the time that I got all the permits, they said, oh, you know, it took this long, something else is going to happen.
We're nervous.
We're nervous, and so I was desperate, you know, and I tried to get bank financing, I tried to go to the SBA, you know, all that stuff was gone. So in last desperation, I made phone calls. So I finally got a hold of this woman, and through a partner at an accounting firm, because I called him desperately. I said, you got to help me find. He says, her name's Carrie McIndoe. And he says, her name's all about what she is, Carrie McIndoe. I called my mom up and I said, because I was broke, I said, I need to borrow some money to fly some people out so I can get the last step. And that was in June, and by August they had raised the money for me, $1.25 million. And you know, they had the contacts, I had the offering memorandum.
All right, so explain to me an offering memorandum. What is it?
Well, an offering memorandum is a legal document that explains your business idea, how you're going to execute it, your financial projections, the legal structure, and it does it in such a way, and also discloses all the risks. In other words, there are inherent risks in any business. You know, I feel like a farmer when the risk was the weather. If it rained for an entire season, I'd go bankrupt, you know? Right. So I had the logo on the front of my offering memorandum. You know, it's a big, thick book.
The little duck.
And when I first showed her this, I showed her a picture of the skyline views from the Charles, and she says, "Andy, you're all wrong. It's not the logo." And she put the picture of the views right here of Boston on the front of the thing. And I was just telling you about these investors in Maryland. I've been going around because I never met half of these people. And I said, "Why do you invest?" He said, "We liked the idea, and we saw that picture on the front of the offering memorandum, and then we were sold." We said we knew it would work.
No, I just got a call from Waterfront Wanda. They have an electrical problem down at the ramp, so they need our duct.
It's this wire. See how nothing we can do with it. See how that just split right off?
Running a successful business often means you have to run it hands-on, as we found out before boarding one of the ducks.
If they're mechanical, they're bound to break down at some point, you know. So, but what you try and do is do your best to, in terms of managing the business, you do everything you can to try and do it under your, you know, repairs and preventive maintenance under your own terms.
So you're one of the official maintenance persons?
Yeah. There's me and four other guys, and I'm one of the two that does breakdowns right now.
Good. So you're having fun?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's the best job I've ever had. So.
I thought at some point it would get easy. I think that's what surprised me, and hasn't gotten any easier. You know, I thought at some point it would be up and running. You know, we have our customers, we're profitable, I have a stable staff, I have, you know, but every day there's a new problem. As I like to say, business is not a state of perpetual motion. You just don't sit back and say, okay, it runs on its own. 2 weeks before we opened, after I pulled this all together, the city came back and said you had to make these things wheelchair accessible. And I was horrified.
You were out of money.
Well, no, I'd raised the money, but here I finally hired the people, you know, raised the money, hired the people, got the permits together, got the ducks, and all of a sudden they're saying you had to become wheelchair accessible. 2 weeks to opening day, and the night before our opening day, this piece of equipment, this wheelchair lift, to be able to get the wheelchair 6 feet off the ground to get it into the duct, came the night before, and that morning at 8:30 in the morning the accessibility people were there, and I demonstrated that I complied with all the ADA standards, and they wouldn't issue the last permit to me until I could do that. And a half an hour before our grand opening event on the front steps of the State House, I got the permit. So I woke up or walked up to the event, you know, ran up to the event from the office holding my permit saying, you know, I'm really open. It was quite, we're in business. I had the sightseeing permit.
Good morning.
Does he have a ticket?
Well, he shared.
We take surveys now, and we find out where they're coming from. Are they coming to Boston specifically to take us? And now that we have all this information, and then, you know, coming up with scientific ways or whatever to quantify the economic impact, because I figured that the economic impact at the Prudential Center had $20 million of economic impact by us being there. Is if you look at the whole economic impact that we have and the way we structure a business, has probably got to be 2 to 3 times as much of all the incidental spending of all these people are coming into Boston to taking this attraction. We're the #1 attraction in the state now.
Hey, Tommy, quack, quack. Really good smile, yeah. Thank you.
You're perceived by the outsider as extraordinarily successful, which means you must be rolling in dough.
Well, I'm not. Before I start really participating in the equity of the business, is that, you know, the way the deal was structured is I had to say, I'm going to put everything at risk, and that, you know, I'm deferring my position. In other words, my position subordinated to the investors until they get a certain return. So basically, I got to pay off another $4 million before I just get past subsistence living. It's not all about money. I mean, it started out about money for me. I knew I could make this a successful business, but then once you get into it and you start affecting people's lives, 300,000 people this year are taking it and getting off and are loving it, and the employees enjoy working at the company, and I've, you know, helped in my own way. I've helped change the world, I think.